Wendy, with a team of 18 other leaders, recently published a very relevant book in today's world, Leadership in Trying Times. Kudos to you guys for putting out this incredibly timely and relevant book. Are there any particular chapters that you want to highlight?
There's just some wonderful chapters in the book. And the way I think about this is, and how I've used the book is, depending on maybe the challenge that I'm having today, is I'll look through the book, leaf through the book, and find a chapter that might help me. So this week in particular, I've had some challenges where I really needed to speak out about something that was very important to me, but I was a little timid to do that. And so one of the chapters in the book, I'm going to refer to the chapter by correct title. Let me look down and read it. Is by Michael Hawkins, and it's called Being Mentally Tough and Considerate in Stressful Times. And what he says really resonated with me in terms of it's okay to basically speak your mind, but understand how important it is that you communicate in a considerate manner with other people. And it really gave me the strength to deal with the situation I needed to deal with. So that was awesome.
What happens when we confront an organization that is resistant to community? Well, that's what happened to Callie. She shared with me that she tried to create community at an old workplace and was just it just was not working, and she had to make the decision on whether she was going to stay or leave. And here's what happened.
I ultimately realized that the people in this community that I entered were not willing. They were not, or just didn't have the same vision that I had for our workplace community. And so ultimately, I made, it took a while to figure that out and come to terms with it, and also be okay with it. Everyone's different. People thrive in different venues, different areas. But ultimately, how I overcame that challenge was I ended up finding a new community that better supported me and was really what I needed.
I guess what really bothers me is that, there's a lot of conversation around diversity right now. We're at a tipping point. I think, a lot of people would agree with that. But it's so tough as a Black woman for people, especially my organization, so I'll say entities rather, to release all the diversity numbers. And respectfully, they're using women to basically pump those numbers up. And, when I walk through the office, when we do go into an office, and I see more women versus more Black or brown people, to be specifically honest, it's bothersome. So it's like, how do you not have that conversation? Why is it okay that only other, white people, specifically mostly white women, are able to check that box? That's not helping our constituents. Again, I mentioned the theme of stewardship. Our workforce should really be representative of the people that are paying into the fund, and it bothers me to my core that it doesn't.
Hey, we have to go into this online environment and deliver great content. So hopefully I've gotten some tips that you can really use, and I'm happy to share them with you so we can deliver great Zoom content. So today we're going to talk about staging tips for a fabulous Zoom. And what does staging mean? Well, that's what you have in your background, in your foreground, lighting that you have. And so there's some really important things that you can do to really improve the quality of your Zoom meetings. Lighting is absolutely critical. And you can have 3-point lighting, which is lighting behind you, lighting on your face, and lighting in front of you at a distance. And that really creates depth. It's something to think about. Your camera quality and angle, you have different options. You can use the camera on your device, or you can get an external device. And also the angle that you are shooting from. Are you in the full frame of the production? And also think about a microphone. The microphone may exist on your device. I'm using an external mic right now. So that can make a huge difference in how you look and sound.
Jesse, how would you say, or did she talk a little bit about how COVID has affected her work?
Yeah, the biggest takeaways that I heard her say over and over again is just how unpredictable her work is and how the variables keep changing.
As a leader in my position, part of my job is to keep everyone excited and to reassure them that it's all going to be okay. And so I think that's been the greatest challenge is the other leaders and as our educators are getting more and more tired and fearful, and fear breeds negativity. You've got to combat that all the time. How do we help keep people positive? How do we reassure them that we indeed do have the tools and the expertise to get through this?
I'd love to hear your thoughts a little bit on how to be authentic and be the real you as you come across on the screen and why it's important to do that.
Yeah, Bundy, I have two tips that come to mind on how to best be authentic. Number one is just keep going. I, for one, mess up all the time. I prepared public speeches before and presentations, and even with the most polished presentation, there are going to be some moments that you mess up, and that is okay. And here, when we are authentic, humans make mistake, and we just keep on going. So that is the number one feedback, number one tip that I have for being authentic.
I'd love to chat with you today about what I'm going to be calling the infodemic, which is Trump's handling of his exposure and the exposure to now at least 11 others in his inner circle to COVID 19. Can you share just some of your initial thoughts about the poor handling of how information was communicated to the public?
The President of the United States has broken just about every rule you can imagine when it comes to best practices for preventing, responding, managing, and recovering from a crisis. And this is even more tragic because he is the latest victim of this pandemic. And unfortunately, it's taken him almost 7 months to, in his words, get it, to understand what this crisis is all about, how it affects people. So he's sending the wrong message. He's setting the wrong example. If there's any silver lining to this, he's providing daily, sometimes even hourly, lessons in crisis management for companies, organizations, and high-profile individuals on how they should deal with a crisis when, not if, they have one.
Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had even before COVID hit, moving to an online environment.
Well, I think the technologies were already well in place to do this. As I mentioned, they're kind of tried and true for those delivering telemedicine. But in the case of legal services delivery, we've got a regulatory structure that's quite tight for lawyers for legal services. We've got really organizational change issues in that law is a fairly conservative profession, with good reason, but a fairly conservative and change-resistant profession. And for clients too, this is a new way of delivery. And our early market research indicated that, while the pre-COVID again, but while 30% of folks were really excited about the idea of video conferencing with their lawyer, 30% hated the idea too. So we knew that we had to approach this carefully and thoughtfully as really fundamentally a change management issue.
Tell me a little bit about how you've, applied comedy or things that you've learned from being a professional comedian that you can share with others and you do share with others.
Wendy, life is drama and life is trauma. You're not just going to walk through life like it's cream cheese and just glide. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard. And comedy is important to laugh at your hardships. If you can laugh at that person who was challenging to you or any hardship in your life, like you have to be able to take a step back and laugh at the irony. And even if it hurts, even if it's so hard, when you laugh, it releases the tension and allows you some clarity to look at the hardships in your life in a sensible kind of way.
What advice do you have for leaders and emerging leaders now as they're trying to deal with this really unprecedented crisis we're dealing with right now?
I don't think anybody has ever dealt with the crisis that we are dealing with right now. This is definitely one of a kind. But the advice I would have is, communicate on timely basis with everybody that's impacted. Be transparent, and rely on your team to help you find the solution and execute on it. You cannot do it alone.
That last point for me really resonated. Working as a team and knowing that it's nearly impossible to figure out the solution on your own.
Today we're going to be talking about gestures, and using your hands really improves the quality of your presentations. This medium, particularly online, is such a flat medium. It really enhances your presentations when you use gestures.